Hey guys, Lord Superhulk here, back from a bit of a hiatus, and I am solo today. Just wanted to take a quick look at Sunless Sea. It's a game that I received from a good friend, Kessa, you know who you are, thank you so much. And wanted to just go ahead and go through a few things about what I like about the game, what makes it kind of special to me, you know. First of all, it's a bit Lovecraftian, and that's kind of right up my alley. If you like exploration games, though, if you like, kind of tough games, a roguelike, I suppose you could call it, I believe the map doesn't change with each playthrough, but the circumstances and random events definitely do. And you can kind of play as different characters with different backgrounds, and we can kind of take a look at that. We're just going to play through a few minutes of it just to kind of get an idea, and yeah, have a little fun with that. So let's start a new game. I am sure. Hey, you gotta tell with this, oh, yep, that was fast. But yeah, skulls in the sand, usually not good. So everything is kind of presented to you, pretty much everything in the game, besides the actual navigation, is presented by this little logbook you have. And even our monies, which are called echoes in this world, are up here. We start with 50, and we're gonna kind of make our character, as it were. So 3 decades ago, in the reign of Victoria, London was stolen by bats. Now it lies a mile below the surface. So whatever happened, London is apparently beneath the crust of the earth, and in this kind of what they call undersea, the undersea, as it were. Choose a pass. Let's do that first. And we now have a room in the above the Blind Helmsman, which I believe is a pub. So who were we? We could be a street urchin, which gives a bonus to veils, which is one of our skills. You'll see them up here. It's hearts, veils, pages, mirrors, and iron. This here is the current amount of crew we have. We start with 8 out of 10 guys for our ship. So the first time I played through, I played as a poet. It's kind of my shtick, I guess. But you could be a veteran in the war, bonus to irons. Yeah, well, let's be a tough guy. You could also be, just to give you an idea, priest and philosopher. So each of these gives you a bonus to one of these skills we looked at. And a little bit of extra information for your history that won't play into the actual game. So we'll go with a veteran. Excuse me. So now you're a captain. You belong to the Untersee, which is just the water down here. But who were you? We were a veteran, survived an invasion of hell. London's armies lost. I survived. Loot and pension have brought me a command. Okay. We're stern and exacting. The shady cook. So he's our special crew. So here we have kind of, I guess our officers, you would call them. You could have a first officer, chief engineer, the cook, gunnery officer, surgeon, and our mascot. Everybody needs a mascot character. And they each will give you bonuses. They'll have their own stories in many cases, which is really interesting. We can right-click on them to speak to them after we get finished here. So this kind of gives you, and pretty much, I guess, like I said, everything is presented in this book. So as we go down the list, it'll kind of tell us what we get, what happens to us after each event. So we get plus 25 iron. So it's twice as much as our other skills, pretty much. We get the Shady Cook, 20 echoes, so up to 70 now. Our background, which again could come into play later. And we had a stranger quality. Like I said, everything is presented this way, so every little story point will pop up here. Really got to pay attention when you play this game to this list of stuff as things happen. So let's continue. We have an ambition. So this we can pick kind of completely independent of our background. What would make sense for our character, though? We could be looking for our father. That would make sense. Yeah, wealth might work. I don't know if it fits with the veteran, though. Perhaps a private kingdom. That's locked, though. We can. Or fulfillment. Gather 100 tails. Let's go. Let's find our father. I think that would make most sense. Alright, so we get an occurrence. Objective ambition quality is now find your father's bones and then retire. So that's our mission, as it were. Last deal is what we want to be called. Madam, sir, says, and what makes sense for our guy? I guess, captain really is, I like that, Just, we're sea captain, it makes sense. But we were in the military, and I am a male, and identify as such. So we're going with sir for this playthrough. Alright. So last piece of advice from the game, explore, take chances. By the way, that's terrible advice, and you'll see why. It says, you could die, you'll pass on your lessons to the next. So what it's really trying to tell us is that, learn by playing the game. And learn, the most important thing really I think you can learn is about the enemies out there, the locations, and the map. Where to go first, how to not waste your fuel and your food. And we'll look at that in just a sec. Alright, so very last bit, I guess, of character creation is going to be what do we look like. Again, let's find our sea captain somewhere. I'm sure we can find him. Our veteran. Yeah, perfect. And we're going to call us Sir, so Sir O'Malley. Alright. Trail's gone cold, but now you have a lead. 1 week ago, the Admiral grew incautious after one brandy too many in the Parthenaeum Club. Ooh. He made references to your father's deplorable end and expressed his regret that he had not prevented it. You are not a member of the Parthenaeum, but your head waiter once served in your regiment. Okay. So the Admiralty, you meet your friend, the head waiter, and learn that the Admiral has not returned since. Perhaps he regrets his outspokenness. You have to find him in his lair at the Admiralty. So our little mission here, win 3 levels of Admiralty's favor and visit the Admiralty Survey Office to speak with the Admiral. So we kind of have to do something before we can visit the Admiral there. We can now go to a few places. So up here we have some kind of lists. These are kind of quick access, but we can also do a few things story-wise. So let's visit London. So here's the Admiralty Survey Office. Remember, we can go there, but we won't be able to meet with the Admiral we're looking for. Okay, so this is where they pay for information. If there's anything they need, so we can ask for what they want, and we'll get a mission. This port, speak to our agent there and return. So they want me to visit the port below and return to London. The port in this case is Gator's Morn in the Corsair Forest. Now we have no idea where that is from the start. You'll notice when I look at the map in a moment, we'll not know where that is. But we're going to go and find it, and that's part of the charm of the game is exploration. So, and this is kind of to meet with that Admiral. Do we have an appointment? No, we don't. We do not. But we'll do that 3-port thing and come back. And we'll go ahead and leave the Admiralty out into the foggy street. It's very narrative. It's all displayed through this. So we can't go to the university yet because we don't have a secret to share. We could go carousing, but we don't have a free evening. It's time to leave. We could hire on some more crew. We have 8 out of 10. That's pretty good. Everything is a challenge. Pretty much everything is a challenge in the game. And your quantity of the required resource, which, by the way, does not necessarily deplete, unless certain story events would do that, deplete, or you don't really gain it. You can go up by spending secrets, I believe. And you accrue those by exploring and adding to your pages. So you need, to add your fragments. And after a certain amount of fragments, you get a secret. And then secrets can be spent to level up, or they can be spent for other things like accessing the university. You can also get repairs in port, of course. And we could offer passage to a tomb colonist. Now this we can do. It says immigrant will pay to be taken north. We don't really have a lot of echoes. So let's go ahead and take them up on that proposition here. So it's oddly difficult to die and fall in London, but when a Londoner is too tatty and wretched to live, they wrap themselves in bandages and take a ship for the tomb colonies. Your crew cart these ones aboard in padded coffins. They'll sleep there until the journey is done. So basically just people cargo. This is a little weird, but it is a weird place. So we have to take them up to Venderblight. Now I've played the game before, so I know that Venderblight is in the north. It does say take them north to the colony of Interblight. Luckily, it's not too far, so we can definitely go there. And it says sell them. You know, selling people, a little weird, I know. You know, that's kind of how the game works. Alright, so we got our mission. We have our other mission from the Admiralty. We have a destination. We are almost ready to go. You can take a look at our hold. We have 10 fuel. You can see that up here as well. We also have 5 supplies. And supplies basically is what would feed our crew. Hunger builds up to this point in the center and then is depleted automatically by one of our supplies. You can go all the way up until the bar fills without supplies, but people will start to get restless. You'll start getting notifications that, well, not restless, hungry. They'll start to want food really badly, and eventually you'll have to do something to keep their hunger at bay. Yeah, you don't want to get that far. So it's important to have a lot of supplies as you set out. Here we can visit our journal, figure out what we have going on, qualities, memoirs, objectives, stuff like that. We can visit our officers in this tab as well. They're up here, but what have you. We're kind of out of those original little menus, so we might be able to talk to the cook. Here we go. Let's speak to him. What you want? He might say more, but a coughing fit takes him. Eventually he straightens up and wipes his mouth slowly with his forearm. Shady Cook is not the most hygienic of officers, but he'll do until you find someone better. So we already know we kind of want to... Good grief, I'm not even going to try that. Suppose it's an introduction to conversation. Basically, this is our level up mechanic. He can increase your hearts by spending a secret. Unfortunately, again, we don't have one. We could also talk to him if we want, so let's see what we get from that. Good grief. He looks you directly in the eyes. Surely, he repeats it more slowly. Sea of Lilies. He licks his lips very slowly. Eventually you have to look away. Sea of Lilies is somewhere in the east central undersea. So basically he's given us this very vague direction towards the Sea of Lilies. And we'll get a little story thread that'll pop up if we actually go there while he's with us. Which, you know, who knows how long that'll last. Lastly, and probably most importantly, we can visit the shops in London. There are shops in some other ports throughout the Untersee, but London is kind of where things are typically the most inexpensive. There are some places where certain items are more abundant and less expensive. You can also just kind of do the whole merchant thing and buy low, sell high. But it's just starting out, it's really more about exploration. But there's a ton of shops here in London. House of Vision, this will give you like a lamp upgrade you can buy. I mean, look at the prices here. Yeah, you know, just the basic stuff is just going to give you +1 mirrors, which honestly, in the great scheme of things, is not a huge bonus for 100 echoes. I mean, we got nothing like that. So, and you can obviously get better and better. The Judgment Resonator being the most expensive. So Caminus Yards sells you various little doodads and things you can use for your ship. Typically very expensive. So you can sell stuff. Some things are not available to buy, but you can sell them for a high price. Whatever this is, a trio of clay stokers, very weird, but you can sell it for 300 echoes, which is a big deal. Naval surplus. This is where you're going to buy your weapons and other consumables for the ship. And weaponry. Let's see. Yeah, we could buy some torpedo components, but we don't really have a torpedo weapon. We just kind of have our regular gun, which doesn't take components. So there's no real point in spending money on that. Let's see. This is a forward weapon. That's pretty good, but this costs torpedo components. It costs 50 to buy. We only have 70 echoes. Maybe we'll buy this or the one above it here when we have a little more money. We already have one of these. You can see the sell option is available. Now this is where you're going to be most. Mrs. Plenty's shipside provisioners. Here's where you're going to be buying more fuel, buying more supplies. Some flares are nice. We don't have any currently. I'm going to go ahead and buy 1 flare just in case we end up needing it. I'm also going to buy, an extra supply. That way we really don't run out. I like to keep 6 on board at minimum. Again, if you can have more, the more the better. You really don't want to get rid of supplies if you can help it. Foxfire candles are interesting. I have never used these. They may help illuminate the area. They're really expensive, and since I don't know what they do, I really kind of stayed away from them. Obviously, you guys can illuminate me in the comments. But there you go. No idea what these do. The description is really weird. Okay. Last two, we'll just go over briefly. Wolfstack Exchange. Some just stuff you can sell. Is where you sell a bunch of stuff. You can actually buy mushroom wine. Now I'm going to buy some mushroom wine from them, and I'm kind of using metagame knowledge about this. But I know that the guys up in the tomb colonies there, where we're going to be going, I know they like mushroom wine, and they will pay more than 21 echoes for it, I think. So we'll buy that. And yeah, these are just other, like, it is what you would think, an exchange where you can buy and sell goods at higher, lower prices. And finally, here's the big ship upgrade store for getting better engines. Right now we have the Elderly Steeple engine, engine power 800. More engine power is great for getting places faster, so you don't have to spend as much fuel. You can evade enemies more easily, things like that. So ours is really cheap, starting engine, all that. And lastly, the shipyard, where you can buy better ships. Now, I have no idea how anyone could ever make 15,000 echoes in a playthrough, but it's just me, or let alone 30,000. Our trade-in for this ship is only 1,000, so I don't know, if I were this guy, I might just sell my ship and retire, but it's not what this game is about. So, alright, we are finally done with those menus, so we are ready to set off. Controls are really simple, just up to go, up again to go faster, and you can slow down and even go in reverse. You see in the top left here, there's a kind of speedometer, and below that is hull rating, and if you get below half, you won't be able to repair your ship without going into port, which can be problematic. But anyway, we will head out. The last thing we have here is, let's see, advice for captains. These are just kind of things we've already been over. This is your tutorial, essentially. We could go over all these, but I just wanted to show it off. Essentially, once you learn the basics of the game, you can sell this for some much needed money. We're not going to do that just yet, just to kind of keep it in our inventory, see if we might need some information from it later, but yeah, that's what it's for. Yeah, this is kind of going over what we looked at before. This is what you can do with your lodging. This is actually a pretty important page. I should have shown off. So let's do this. Let's read the morning paper. This is good because we're going to get a recent event and we can share that as we travel. Recent news from London is something that the more civilized parts of the world will actually care about. So, and they'll help then trade for that. Alrighty, there's a few other things you can do here, including like buying a better house. You can even retire, which is kind of a way to end and quote-unquote win the game. And what you need, though, you need either unlocked when your lodgings are an elegant townhouse or seaside, Z-side mansion. Alright, and the rest of London we already looked at. There we go. Finally, we're ready to set sail. This is embarrassing. Hey, there we go. Not sure why it didn't work before. Anyway, W increases your speed. You can press spacebar to pause. You can press L to turn off your lights, and that is the first thing you're going to want to do. Your lights will help you navigate, obviously, but if you keep them off, your terror will go up, which is technically a bad thing, but you also consume less fuel. A significant amount of fuel is saved by turning them off, and you can still see where you're going. The biggest thing that lights do is illuminate places where you can dock and help you to identify things in-game where you can discover stuff. You notice that our fragments goes up, and when we hit, let's see, we need 238 more fragments, and then we'll we will level up, so to speak. Okay, so we've landed here at Hunter's Keep. I'm not really sure what that is, but we have docked. We can hit E to finish the docking process. And we're here in Hunter's Keep. So just like in London, we've got our little options menu that pops up. There we go. So a hump of dark rock swathed in mist like 100 other undersea islands, but here's a grand house, windows aglow, lawns impossibly green and lush in the false starlight, raked gravel paths. You stand on the dock as the sea nudges the ship's sides. An unexpectedly warm breeze carries the faintest trace of lavender. So I love this place. I love Hunter's Keep. It is really interesting. The sisters live on Hunter's Keep. There's 3 of them. They're really intriguing characters. They seem kind of creepy, but they end up being relatively nice, at least in my experience. So let's go meet the sisters. It's only the right thing to do. You can notice that we have some other options here. We can take a walk around to get like an idea of the place. We can reconnoiter the island, which will give us like an idea, and we might even be able to obtain what's called a port report, just as the recent news from London is enjoyed by people who don't live there. Port reports are useful at the Admiralty back in London, so you can kind of trade those bits of information without actually having to trade any physical goods, which is really nice. So let's do that. Let's take a walk around before we talk to the girls. All right, see silence. Excuse me. Ships rarely come here. Nothing changes, even the weather. House is the heart of the isle. The house, the sisters, but the Admiralty may be happy to know that nothing's changed at least. So not much. You have an idea they probably won't really care too much about that, but it's something. So we'll take that. We could walk around, but let's take a look here. So we can spy on the house. We have a 75% chance of success to do so. Since this is our first time here technically, let's go ahead and have a walk around and see if we can succeed at this challenge. Piano music drifts across the terrace. Alright, so you can tell we have succeeded. Peer through the half-open French window into a grand parlor, grand in size, of a little reduced in style by dust and neglect. A dark-haired, pale-skinned young woman bends earnestly over a piano keyboard. Another, fair-haired but unmistakably her sister, sprawls on a sofa with a book. A third sits by the fireplace, staring sorrowfully into the embers. Soon, she says, the piano music falters and stops. We'll go hungry, and then the end will come. For me, but not for you. The pianist raises her eyes from the keyboard. Hush, if we don't speak of it. She frowns. Has she seen you at the window? You withdraw. So we get 40 fragments because we've learned something more about the world. That goes into our little progress bar there. We now know something of Hunter's Keep, which could come up later, and we've succeeded, which just means, yay, we did it. Alright, so we're done with that. The last thing we have to do here is to go say hi. Knock and enter. A maiden with a smoldering topaz eyes shows you into the parlor where 3 young women wait. A visitor, the youngest cries. The next youngest chuckles. The eldest sighs. Do excuse the indecorum, she says. Visitors are rare. You are very welcome. I am Cynthia. The noisy one is Phoebe. The cheerful one is Lucy. You are in good time for lunch. Will you join us? And you have, of course, really no option here to proceed. Just gotta continue. So Azalea raises her head, sniffs sharply, blood on the wind. So that is a little creepy. You'll find a story when you next make port. So basically just that means that when we go back to London, it will advance the main story. Okay. And now we have our options. We walk in, and we can pick who we want to spend some time with. So if we remember, the eldest, she was kind of the one who sighed. She's melancholy, pensive, occasionally dramatic. We had Lucy, sunny and restless, prone to giggles. We had Phoebe, who is the youngest. She's soft-voiced, watchful, and unpredictable. So she sounds kind of exciting to me. When you have, let's see, when you have some more information, when something waits you, so we may be able to share with them in a little bit. But let's go ahead and pick a sister. Let's start with the youngest. It's a little creepy, I know, but again, the unpredictable thing is what's interesting to me. So let's have a look. Phoebe, a soft voice, watchful, unpredictable. Here's a story. Phoebe has a story to tell of 2 lovers parted by water, of a raven that carried messages of a fragment of the moon. She beats time on the table as she speaks, as if to a song only she can hear, and the effect is hypnotic. Your attention drifts out through the skylight of the dining room to the false stars glittering on the roof of the cavern. You drift like a puffball spore. The Untersee shimmers below. Islands lie like mineral specimens on black velvet. Ships bob like wood chips between the islands. Vast-spined things pulse in the depths. There is a scent, like the scent before a storm. The storm came, says Phoebe quietly. Everything changed. Somewhere in there you finish the last course. The scowling maid reluctantly serves cheese and Bath Oliver biscuits. So you lose a terror, basically getting a chance to spend time away from the dangers of the Untersee or the really awful stuff will help you lose terror. High terror will make the crew freak out. You are fed, so you lose hunger, which is great. We were about to lose a supply. So the crew is fed, nobody's hungry. That's great. Fragments remained unchanged, so no more fragments. We get a memory of distant shores, which will be useful at the university and the tomb colonies. And that's all for now. It means that we're kind of done with that portion of the story. And we get an extra supply, so they actually will provide supplies here. Now, what's important about receiving all this information is, for instance, like that's all for now. We really can't do anything else, so we can't immediately go and have lunch, you'll see, with the sisters again. However, we could come back later, once the clock has kind of turned, and have lunch with another one of the sisters, and keep getting to know them. They're really interesting characters. Alrighty, so let's take a look at Hunter's Keep, see if there's anything less. So the sisters are not receiving visitors right now. Where are they? We could go take a look. The maid makes it clear through a series of unwelcoming growls that Phoebe, Lucy, and Cynthia are all three indisposed. No lunch today, so that's quite alright. However, we could tempt them out of their lair with the smell of new stories, which would allow us to maybe even talk to one of the other sisters before we leave. Alright, we get rid of our recent news, which is a little weird. You think we could share that with other people, but indeed we do lose it. Ask the sulfur-eyed maid to carry a few hints. A bunch of really great characterizations here in description. You ask the sulfur-eyed maid. What a really cool way to put that. To carry a few hints of your news to the sisters. Oddly enough, she comes back with a message that their headaches are cured and they're invited to lunch. So we haven't eaten enough. We're going to go and meet another one of the sisters. Which, you know, just for fun, we'll do that. Lucy will be a fun time, I think. Let's talk to Lucy. A daft tale. Lucy leans over and whispers to you confidentially, a complex story about a butler, a pig, and an inheritance. You don't follow the details of the plot, but somehow the pig ends up in an attic and the butler in a vicar's bed. Candles flicker, dishes enter and leave, and the wind butts gently at the window panes. By the time the plum pudding arrives, you're as cheerful as you've been in months. Which is a lot of fun. You now have the Gods of the Z Stone's attention. So for whatever reason, listening to this story and talking to Lucy has given us this Gods of the Z Stone's attention kind of little tick mark there. And we'll look at that in a little bit. Basically, we've acquired one of the, I think there's 3 gods, one of their attention, and just for talking to Lucy, which I think is really interesting. We're not really sure as to exactly why yet. Gain 1 supply again, so back up to 8, and more supplies. I mean, that's all we can ever want. So that's all for now, and we don't have any more news to share, so we're not going to be able to lure them out. We could look at our advice book, but again, that's not really important at the moment. So we're kind of done with that. Now we could go back to port, but we've got plenty of supplies, we've got plenty of fuel. Let's continue trekking on, shall we? We'll press E to launch. There we go. And we're off. Okay. I like going at 2, and we'll cut those lights out to save on fuel. We can spare a little bit of terror here. Hope you guys can hear the music okay. I know that my recording software really takes in the music. I've got it on really low for me. On we go. So we're going northwest, as you can tell. We're going to favor north here so we don't run into the walls. But we are coming up on the northern tomb colonies here, I believe. Love the atmosphere. Really interesting stuff. Let's cut on the lights briefly and see if that'll help us to... Yep, there's Vendor Blight. That's part of the tomb colonies. Let's see if we can find a... there we go. There's a place to dock. So let's take care of Vendor Blight, and then I'm going to cut the video, but we will explore that location first. So we're coming in for a landing. Alright, so we brought this decaying immigrant north. Now what? One last fight. Your passengers have been drinking. Ahoy, she chortles. Defend yourself. She launches a tipsy assault. Your crew hang back chuckling. Thanks, crew. Nice. Our iron is really high. This is an easy challenge, so we have a 100% chance of success. Boom. An effortless defense. Tomb colonists have a lifetime of bitter experience. Some of them are the deadliest combatants under the earth. I like that. Possibly this one is, when she hasn't drunk quite so much rum. You'll never know. She salutes you laughing after you disarm her. Good fight, she opines. Then she staggers backwards and falls over the side. You never do find what happened to her, but at least you have her rather magnificent cavalry saber and her belongings. So, unfortunately, we we park in her the place where we could kind of offload her, and she kind of drunkenly stumbles to her doom. But, you know, she came here to die anyway, so I suppose we've completed that mission. She was carrying, well, we get that saber, which is going to give us the +1 iron. We lose her, but we get 2 supplies. I guess she was holding out on us. And we succeeded in the iron challenge, which is nice. You brought the tomb colonists to Vendor Blight and defeated them in an unexpected duel. And our outlandish artifact, I guess, is going to be that saber we were talking about. So here we are. We can explore the tomb colony. Dusty glass of wine. This would require that we have terror 25. So some things actually do require that we have a certain quantity of terror to participate in things. Usually the terror, when there's a requirement for terror being a certain amount, it's usually because whatever we would do there would reduce the terror. So that's not something we need to do right now with only 4 out of 100. We could, however, explore Vendor Blight, so let's do that. They favor candlelight over gaslight, which is just fine with me. We take a walk around. The tomb colonists, the shadows are swagged like cobwebs. The tomb colonists stand still enough to be mistaken for sculpture until they laugh or cough. 1 building in 3 seems abandoned. So, really dreary place. That's creepy. The Carmine Chapel is what we come across. Little chapel stands alone. You poke your head through the door. Walls are a deep red, just this side of scarlet. A ruby-tinted window at the back glows with steady light. An electric lamp behind the glass? Rare and expensive, but this is no gaslight. No one is here, and yet you have the sensation that only moments ago, or a moment ago, someone must have been. So we could just walk away. And that's kind of weird, so we can walk away. Or we could make an offering, drop a coin into the empty offering box, and pray to the power of this place, whoever it may be. Make an offering with half familiar rites. Moving as if asleep, you place a candle at each corner of the altar. So this would require unaccountably peckish, which is one of the menaces. Unaccountably peckish one, I believe, comes when you have resorted to nefarious means to satiate your hunger in the past. Don't quote me on that. I don't think I've been that unlucky. Yeah, anyway. So here we do unlock it because we do not have the previous indication, or we can just search around. A chancy challenge, we are at 49% with our mirrors. I say let's give him an echo and see what happens. Uncertain outcome. Prayer soothes your soul, they say. Your soul is not soothed. You wait, head bent, while the light in the chapel beats on, shadowless and unmoving. Nothing changes. The red of the place gets into your vision. The faces of your crew seem flushed, as if fevered. You hear your own breathing echo raggedly. No one is sitting in the pew behind you. It doesn't stop you from looking. The scene will stay with you. Perhaps you can write of it when you return to London. So we get a tale of terror. Those are going to be great when we go to the university. We lose that echo we dropped into the box. And that's kind of it for now, which means we're done with this whole section. But we get 5 terror because that shit was creepy. Alright, let's take another look at the tomb colony before we leave. The first curator, we could visit him. We could gather some gossip, which will be the port report, I believe. Bingo. Port report, Vendor Blight. We'll get that back to London. And finally, We can't do the last tour operator because we're missing 12 supplies, yeah. To replace 12 supplies with 12 tomb colonists, which link to 3 destinations in the Intercity. Yeah, that's a bit of a trek, one that we are certainly not outfitted for. So, Z Captains, the first curator gives audience. The first curator is responsible for the preservation of the tomb colonies. It has been here much longer than London, like all the oldest tomb colonists, but even tomb colonists dissolve in the end. Its time is close. So let's do that. Interesting. Completely black. No more light, the obsequious steward cautions you. The curator is terribly afraid of moths. He opens the door and you step into near darkness. A pair of luminous lamplighter bees buzz in a latticed ivory tube. There is no other source of light. A bandaged shape no larger than child lies crumpled on a couch. It lifts its head with obvious effort. It takes several seconds for you to distinguish its voice from the soft buzz of the bees. You can listen to a whispered request, ask about the sanatorium, accept the commission, which is a little weird. But let's listen to the request first. Sea Captain, Silkskin, not much left of me. I will go into the Grand Sanatorium. Bring me colors, 7 colors. Pay well. Cosmogon, Irigo, Pelagin. Steward has list. Find them here and there across the wide black Z. Alright, so that gives us a bit of a quest, and we can accept it. Alright, it collapses, rustling back on the couch. Even the effort of speaking seems to have diminished it a little. The audience is over. As the door opens, it shrinks from the finger of light that reaches across the floor. Outside, the obsequious steward nods. The book. Yes, the book. He hands you a slim, illustrated volume. The curator is old as dust. We will all be grateful if you do it this one last favor. I think it's really interesting that this thing has been here, longer than London? That's obviously quite a long time, unless I misread that, but, referring to someone who can speak as an it, by someone who is there to take care of it, not being on a gendered pronoun basis is a little interesting. Could be that the first curator does not have a gender, either by choice or by necessity. Yeah, very, very interesting. Again, this is really interestingly well written, and I think that's one of its greatest strengths. So we get a page from the Neath Bow. And this gives us all the colors he wants, and it wants. I have no idea what any of this could possibly mean, just that we're looking for various colors to bring back. We get the Neath Bow, which we could take a look at later, and finally the final 2 colors that they're looking for. Alright, so that wraps us up here. We do have a shop that we can visit. Remember to always check the shop tab, because it'll give you different options than in London. The Arcade of Size, great. Where you can buy and sell mushroom wine. Look, we've made 2 echoes. Remember, we bought it for 21. We can sell it for 23. Hey, that's 2 echoes we didn't have before, right? We could restock supplies or fuel. Notice that supplies are more expensive here than they are in London. We are plenty laden with supplies, so no need of that. Fuel we're also pretty good on. We could sell our recent news here. Let's see here. Memory of Distant Shores. So we could sell this to them. But we're going to hang on to that because I think the university is going to be interested. Okay, and lastly, we could sell tomb colonists if they hadn't taken a tumble off the side of the boat. So there you go. You can even buy a ship here. Neat. Anywho, so there you go. There's a little quick look. It's a little longer than I thought it was going to be. Look at Sunless Sea, which is a really interesting game for those of us who like exploration. You can see my hunger is going up even while I'm sitting here, so I'll go back into the menus to stop it from making me run out of food. But yeah, I mean, if anything, the game's real weaknesses are in the way that the information is laid out. I think having everything in this journal is handy, but I think it kind of detracts from the narrative in some cases, especially since like you can acquire items like recent news, you know. I mean, once you get a hang of it, the hang of it rather, it does become a lot easier to deal with, but for somebody who's just getting into the game, you know, getting information, excuse me, as an item is a little weird. You know, especially since you acquire it just by talking to people and not like it being like a dossier or anything. A port report is just compiled by your shipmates, you know. It's something that you can bring back and trade. So, you know, that can be a little strange. The way they talk about things in the notes is a little weird. And, you know, no voice work at all in the game, which is okay. I mean, I've got no real issue with that. I don't know, with poor voice work, title can definitely suffer. So I think if they really didn't have that stuff at their immediate, you know, behest, then, you know, best to kind of go without. But yeah, if you don't mind reading, if you're into exploration, if you kind of like a darker atmosphere with the occasional bits of humor, which I'm going to show off right before we go, then I do recommend it. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to talk to our comatose ferret, our mascot. It's a mobile. Occasionally it's feral. So it gives us +1 hearts just for being in our crew, so to speak. But let's go ahead and see what happens when we talk to it. Alright, it lies across your desk like a lumpy scarf. Hey, he's so sleepy. Play with your ferret. Attract its attention. So let's do that. We get a weary roll of the eye. Play, that eye roll says. Play. I played once in the happy warrens of London before you installed me in this floating coffin and made me eat dried food. Damn your play. Is an eloquent eye roll. Our ferret speaking with his eyes more than anything else. But you'll get different responses every time you talk to him. Well, not every time, but you know, occasionally you'll get a far more violent response from the guy. I haven't really gotten anything that's outwardly positive. It's usually either neutral or negative, but who knows. Alright, so that's enough for Lord Superhulk here. If you guys enjoyed this and you want to see me do more of Sunless Sea specifically, or if you think that this video is crap and you have suggestions for things I can do better, like, I don't know, not have to clear my throat every 5 minutes, please let me know in the comments. We'll be back with Mephi shortly, I promise you. Now that he is available for things again. Yeah, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace.